Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We're just trucking along through the week, Larry Sprinkle.
The two.
The two, just two of us. Just the two of us. Hey, it's hard to believe 5 years ago that Billy Graham passed away, and we were there covering the funeral along with Fred Shropshire. Right. And when they said that the other day in the newsroom, 5 years, I thought, that is crazy.
Yeah. And, you know, the service was amazing. It was attended by so many people from really around the world. Mm-hmm. Billy Graham Library is only a couple blocks down the street from us right here, but it's hard to believe that America's pastor was 99 years old when he passed away.
So many people here and around the world, you know, have memories of Billy Graham. We want to know, do you have any memories? Where were you when he passed away? Were you here? Were you watching our coverage? 2,000 people were invited to that funeral. And, you know, they didn't call it a funeral. They called it the Last Crusade. His last great crusade. We have Richard DeVayne live for us at the library. And Richard, we know the library's done some updates now. They've included his funeral now in parts of the tour. But it's really an amazing place if you haven't been to it yet.
Absolutely, and even if you have been to it, it's a good time to come out and relive and reflect on this life that touched so many other lives, bringing them to Christ. Now, we're in the library, and you can see, of course, Bessie the Cow and some other things that have been here for a while. But as you said, there are a lot of other new exhibits here, so to speak, including a pictorial of that Last Crusade, the video montage, and also pictures of that Last Crusade of Billy Graham. We spoke to his grandson about his legacy and what he meant to not just the people in Charlotte, but around the world.
Your life will be transformed if you'll let him touch your life.
5 years ago, the world paused to reflect on the life of the man who was known as America's pastor, Reverend Billy Graham. Thousands took part in honoring Graham in some way, by mourning privately, or lining the streets to view the funeral procession from Montreat to Charlotte, or visiting Billy Graham's library to view his casket. Many ways in order to pay their respects during his homegoing celebrations. Today at the library, there will be several events open to the public to honor the life and legacy of the man who spent his life in service to others, and whose works of spreading the gospel and humanitarian aid continues to this day with organizations like Samaritan's Purse. We spoke to Will Graham about the legacy of the man who most knew as Reverend, but he also knew as Granddad.
God just gave him favor with people, and people fell in love with my granddad because it wasn't about my granddad, it was about because of Jesus Christ, and he pointed them to Jesus Christ, and their life was changed, and their circumstances changed because they put their faith in Christ, and so they're always thankful for Billy Graham. And they always feel like they were so grateful that God used Billy Graham to change their life.
And as Sarah, you and Larry, I'm sure remember on that day, Franklin Graham would say so many times that his father would tell them, this should not be about me. This is about the work we're doing here. And you can see some of that work right here at the library. Phenomenal.
Yeah, Richard, and just behind you, you know, you were showing Bessie, and so many people that don't know his backstory don't realize
he's a Charlottean, and if you know where Park Road and Woodlawn is, if you go just beyond that, just beyond Park Road and Woodlawn is the old where the farm was, and some of that is still in the Graham family who still owns some of that. So yeah, there were farmers right here in the Charlotte area back when Park Road and Woodlawn was out in the middle of the country. It was out in the middle of nowhere back in those days.
And the house, so where Richard is, you can walk.
Absolutely correct. Let's actually show you that if we can see through the doors, the house, which is just I mean, it's actually located just a short distance.
They moved
can you see
that
it,
house,
guys?
by the way. Yeah, that was all moved out there.
They moved the house a few times, but this is actually now sitting not too far from where it was originally built. How amazing is that? Built by Billy Graham's father.
Yeah, and when you walk through the house, I mean, they say they relayed that brick by brick, and you can see his mom's little reading room and the kitchen and everything. And Richard, behind you as well is the library, where a little store you can shop, bookstore, and then also a restaurant. Some people in here said they have a restaurant there, and I said yes, they have great milkshakes.
That is absolutely correct. We're talking about things that are here. The bookstore has been expanded. You can see over in the corner. And, of course, as you said, that restaurant. But there are these new exhibits. I'm tempted to grab Lisa, who's been here all morning with us, and grab her, but she doesn't want to be on camera. But there are a number of new exhibits here, expanded exhibits as well, that everyone needs to come out today. And, you know, the amount of people who come through here on a year is enough to fill a Bank of America stadium. So It's like every single year, that's how many people come through here. And, of course, at certain times, like we expect more than that today. But it is free to get in. And we have details on all of the activities here today and going forward on our website at WCNC.com. Just a phenomenal place. Best of all, it is right next to you guys. I'm close to you guys.
You're right down the street.
WCNC.
Yeah, just a short trip down the Billy Graham Parkway that is all of his history is right there. There's a brand new building, a big depository of anything Billy Graham, all of his films, all of the radio
papers, the
programs
research,
he did, everything he wrote and did is in that depository. You know, when you go back 5 years, the number of people who came there, over 2,000 people invited. Among those, the president, Trump was there, the vice president was there, among many local leaders and representatives from religions from all over the world. The Pope had a representative who was there on that day 5 years ago.
We saw so many people when we were sitting out there. We spoke to Joel Osteen, Rick Warren.
Yes.
One person we didn't speak to that we saw, though, was Jim Bakker.
Jim Bakker came. He was, you know, the interesting story about Jim Bakker, and this is I'm not being judgmental, but there were a lot of issues with Jim Bakker. He went to prison, and when he came out, he literally had nothing. And Billy Graham reached out to him, provided him with a vehicle, provided him with a place to live. And so I think Jim Bakker was showing his respect back to Billy Graham, who reached out to everyone.
I heard in a podcast that he had stopped to see him in prison, and Jim Bakker said, "Why'd you stop to see me?" And he said, "I always stop to see my friends." You know,
amazing?
Had such an impact on so many people.
Stories that you hear so many stories just like that about his impact on people. We spoke to people here yesterday who one gentleman was from Indianapolis. He said that he just grew up listening to the words of Billy Graham and what he stood for, and that's why he brought not only his family, but he brought his friends down here to come to the library, a focal point of their vacation down in the Carolinas, just to come to this library because of Billy Graham and his impact on not only his life, but his family's life, his parents' life, and everything. Another thing about this place, when you walk through, you learn a lot about the Charlotte area, too. You see things and signs of the 50s and 60s that you learn about this area. So it's a great place to come to celebrate his life and what he meant to so many people right here in Charlotte.
A lot of history. I think he represented, and by the way, every single president. He was a friend of every president, visited with all of them, counseled almost all the presidents. So he was a man in touch with the world and beyond just his own background in the Protestant denominations. He reached out to, he was ecumenical to the whole world.
Yeah, people tried to get him to go into politics, to try to go into movies, and he said, no, I know my mission. And on Sirius XM Radio, there's still a channel dedicated to all of his sermons that you can listen to.
You know, I just turned 4 years old, and we lived down in Savannah, Georgia, and we attended a little church, a little community church, and we remember like it was yesterday. They said we have a film strip we're going to run today, and it's from this amazing minister. His name is Billy Graham. And they showed that. He was dynamic.
Yes.
He was dynamic. If you see some of the older footage of him, not that he wasn't always, but even more so as a younger guy, kind of reached out and said, hey, listen to me, I'm Billy Graham.
And when you walk through the library, when you go into it, the first part of it, it's like you're sitting under a tent and you are at his first crusade. Yes.
Yeah, old-fashioned tent revival.
Yeah.
He sure did a lot of those around. And he came to Bank of America Stadium. I remember going to that one. And it was, here's what I remember. I was down there at the Billy Graham headquarters a number of years ago speaking to some people I know down there and talking about when he came to Bank of America Stadium in a crusade.
Wow. Yeah, I bet that was amazing.
They said, Reverend Graham, we have you lined up to go to the stadium in Charlotte. He said, no, we can't do that. And they said, why? He goes, no one will come. Not that many people are going to be there. Maybe a couple thousand.
Oh, yeah.
It was packed.
Yes.
It was packed. And he's such a dynamic speaker. And this was in his later years that he spoke. And it was just, I think that his message really you can be touched regardless of religion. He's just a dynamic human being.
And even those pictures, Richard, that you see at the library, some of them he's speaking to millions. It is crazy to see those images of people in stadiums or just on the lawn in other countries. All the people that he touched around the world.
Traveled around the world.
People came from every place all over the globe just to hear him, just to get that message. And that's what he said. He was just gifted by God to be able to deliver that message. And that's the important thing he said, that it wasn't about him, it was about his message and the message to the people of the world. And it's like you said, people of different faiths, religions, and everyday denominations came just to pay their respects to him, and will always think of him fondly because of what he meant and his message of love.
Well, we have a couple people chiming in. Joy saying, I wish I could have met him. Robin Johnson saying, I went to 2 of his crusades. I never forget how God used him. So, again, just touching people around the world.
And also, he's a Charlottean, a native Charlottean, Billy Graham, who passed away, and the service was held 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Can't believe it. Well, keep the comments coming. Let us know how Billy Graham touched your life, or maybe you were watching the coverage, or, hey, you never know, maybe you were there. We want to know, we want to hear your stories, and we'll see you back here on air at 11:30 this afternoon, and again tomorrow morning at 4:30 on Wake Up Charlotte.
See you then.